Vivi Ornitier is a card so rare as to be almost unique in that it was identified as absolutely cracked during spoiler season correctly by even just regular Magic players. Almost unheard of. I mean, it was relatively easy because Vivi is 3 cards. We can put aside all of the specifically how insane various parts of Vivi is, how well it synergizes with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, putting aside the fact that this is a 3-mana card that is 3 cards. Tempest Angler, which is prowess but permanent in the form of +1/+1 counters. Firebrand Archer, which is the whenever you cast a non-creature spell, ping your opponent for 1. And the crazy mana effect that lets you tap, but not actually, for mana. It's a very safe and simple way to evaluate, is a card going to be good if it's multiple lower rarity cards stapled together without meaningfully increasing the mana cost. Firebrand Archer costs 2 mana, but Tempest Angler costs 3. So this is just a Tempest Angler with more stuff. And then additionally, it has add mana equal to its power, an effect so incredibly broken that it barely exists. Previously, it existed in green, the color that it's supposed to be in. And just the fact that these are 3 different cards that all want to be in the same deck, they want to be together. One of the worst things about Tempest Angler and Firebrand Archer is the fact that they both want to be in the same deck. You play them in a draft because you can't get all of one or all of the other. You would really, really like a card that just merges the two. And if Vivi was a card that was just its triggered ability, it would be actually kind of great. It wouldn't be destroy all of competitive forever levels of incredible, but a 3-mana card that just has, whenever you play a non-creature spell, get bigger, deal a point of damage. That's great. That feels in line with most of the rest of the Final Fantasy cards. A good card that people are going to play because they really like the character and doesn't need to be additionally pumped up by becoming a competitive staple. Now, the mana effect is insane. And again, this is before we are getting into taking the mana effect and putting it onto other creatures. Vivi's mana is 2 colors. It can be used on anything, and it can be generated on the turn that you play Vivi because it doesn't tap, which means it isn't gated by summoning sickness. Vivi might say, do this only once per turn, but that is not a meaningful restriction when you have functionally given the card haste. It is not a meaningful restriction when... Here's what I want people to take away from this video. Magic is a game as ecosystem. There are things within the game that you're supposed to use as a designer to balance and tweak your cards because they can be interacted with in known ways. Vivi tapping for mana would have made sense because that's how cards are supposed to work. Part of Vivi's power is the fact that it doesn't work the way that cards already in the ecosystem work. That's what makes its interaction with Cauldron so great. And you know what? Let's talk about Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Because before we had Vivi, in Standard, we had Kami of Whispered Hopes, a creature with tap, add mana equal to this creature's power. And it already got played with Cauldron, and it already went infinite. And that was on a creature that had to tap for mana, which meant if you played a creature out and then you put Kami under the Soul Cauldron and then put a counter, you couldn't immediately go positive in mana. This is what I'm talking about when I say designers are supposed to use the restraints that are in the ecosystem already because other cards will exist in the ecosystem that are assuming that you are making cards as they are designed in the ecosystem. Agatha's Soul Cauldron gives out activated abilities generally for free because it's really interesting to try and find ways to account for the fact that, hey, giving a creature 4 different abilities that all cost tap turns out not actually that powerful. You have to find exactly the right combination of puzzle pieces to set up an infinite combo, and then you have to find a way to put the deck together to quickly and reliably assemble the infinite combo while not getting run over by mono red or immediately disrupted by control. The crazy thing about Vivi is that if mana producing cards worked like Vivi, Soul Cauldron wouldn't have been made. Or Soul Cauldron would have been made, but it would specify that you can't use it to make mana abilities. But then that would undercut the point of Soul Cauldron, because the whole idea was meant to be that you can put mana abilities under the Soul Cauldron, put mana abilities on creatures that aren't generally supposed to have them, and you can slowly cobble together an infinite combo of some kind. Or, you know, you can just play the fact that Agatha Soul Cauldron is an incredible graveyard hate piece that also generates +1/+1 counters, but that is beside the point. If we get through the other side of this 7 Vivi Soul Cauldron Arena Championship, and the card that sees a ban or in some other way a consequence is Cauldron and not Vivi, I am going to be upset. I mean, I'm just a consumer, and so me being upset is par for the course, but it should be clear here that it's not really a matter for debate here. If you actually sit down and you actually look at what are the cards here that are playing by the established design rules of Magic, and what are the cards that aren't, Vivi is 3 cards in a trench coat, one of which is carrying a